to steal my boy John Pastor Everett's word. Whoa, that boy was cold-blooded, wasn't he? So you can see that this has been an incredible event, and I'm just so thrilled about it. I don't know if I'll stop smiling for quite a while. This smile is going to be stuck on my face. One thing that I am really excited. I'm excited to have all of y'all in the room. I'm excited to have you watching, right? But the thing that I am most excited about is what's about to happen. So, 1997, I came to the Potter's House Church, first time, and mesmerized because I thought, how does this guy know my business so well? I thought, how is this possible? It's spooky, it's eerie, it's creepy. How do you know me that well? And I kept going, and I would actually go back to my old church, but longing for what's going on over there. So finally, I just made the connection. I made the jump. 1997. Then some years passed by, and I got a chance to serve closely, volunteering. And you got to understand, then I was a young boy, smaller waist, less gray, if any. And I saw what he was able to do. And I heard him preaching and ministering, and it was like he's only 6'3", but seemed larger than life. It's like when he was ministering, it was like voices coming from a voice. And I couldn't understand it. But I knew that I was meant to be there. I knew it. And I knew we were meant to be together. I couldn't explain it. It sounded really crazy, but I knew it. And I started having dreams. I'll be honest with you. I had dreams and I had visions of us being on the stage together. Now, I'm a little boy, still working at a part-time job, volunteering, and that looked miles away. It looked odd. I didn't even want to share it because it seemed like you got something wrong up top. To say that, seeing how you came in, and now you have this ideal or this vision of where you say God is taking you, it didn't make sense. So then God started opening doors, and I began to serve, began to drive, and then I became full-time assistant. Not because of anything in particular I did, but it's because I served. And so if you have any ambitions to go higher anywhere, I don't care how crazy it looks. I don't care who says that's a silly ideal. Why have that dream? Why have that vision? If you can humble yourself enough to serve it, God will open the door based off of your heart. So for the past 20 years, I didn't have a pastor. I had a friend. I had a role model. I had a father. And sometimes I just had a chest. Will you please help me welcome Bishop T.D. Jakes?
Wow. That's one of those situations where the introduction is better than the movie.
Bishop, thank you. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
Thank you for being here. So we've been traveling together for almost 20 years now, and it's a great bond. It's a crazy thing that people don't even realize unless you have somebody that close, how two people can read each other without saying a word, and you could just look at each other in the eye, and you think, all right, well, you said enough. I don't have to say that. I think what we are missing now is the value of relationships. Talk about the value in that, because somebody will say, oh, well, they dissed me, or they tried to correct me, and now you cut that person off when that somebody was just trying to, lift you up or build you.
If you don't have a relationship until you've had conflict, any relationship that has not endured conflict is not a real relationship. This notion of this utopia of a relationship with people, businesses, companies that don't have conflict, it has not been tested. You can't say that you have a faithful husband until you've had conflict. So, you say you can't say that you've got a faithful consumer until you've dealt with conflict. If you can endure conflict and still come back, we're really connected. In biblical language, if you can endure chastisement, then you're my son and not a bastard. Okay? In corporate language, corporations are ahead of individuals. And this might be an overgeneralization, but African Americans, because of our history and our oppression, we are overly sensitive. We live so much in our emotions. We are so overwhelmed with our emotions that we lose sight of the greater point. Corporations have learned the art of relationship. So if you go to the Hyatt, after a while, when you register at the Hyatt, they already know what kind of room you want. They know what kind of bathrobe you want. They pride themselves through technology of making you feel at home. They value that relationship, and because that relationship is the blood of the organization. It is not the transaction, the one-off transaction. We're looking for one-off transactions. They're looking for long-term relationships. Because the amount of people that can impact your life with a one-off transaction are minuscule. That's the 1% at the top. The other 99 down at the bottom is long-term, sustainable relationship. And I think that we have to understand that. We have to appreciate that both on a personal level and on a professional level, and to provide the kind of service that creates longevity rather than a one-time experience.
Beautiful. So speaking of being overly sensitive, we were driving down the road, and we were talking about critics. And it's bad, I was at a red light, and I typed it in my phone. I was driving. Everybody has an opinion, but you have the opportunity. And I think that's so important, because you have an opportunity to go higher, to go further. And then here comes somebody criticizing something that you did or said in a minuscule moment. And now you are so focused on them that you miss your opportunity. Can you indulge on that?
Gravity is the critic of aerodynamics. Gravity is the critic of aerodynamics. That is to say, the gravitational pull resists the aerodynamic to take flight. Every one of us listening, whether you're watching online or you're here in this room, has to escape the gravitational pull of mediocrity. If you can escape the gravitational pull of mediocrity, then you can become airborne. But there are two different laws fighting each other, and both of them are legal. The law of gravity is legal. It is that propensity that people have to think it's wrong for you to escape their orbit.
Bishop.
Those, your critics always live within the gravity of your environment.
Bishop.
If you have a desire to escape that gravitational pull, it will not be easy because that gravitational pull has been your home. It has been the center of your experiences. And even though you intellectually want to aspire to escape it, there's also a certain degree of fear because you don't know what is beyond it. The second thing, have you built the apparatus that can escape it? So building the organizational infrastructure that's necessary to escape the gravitational pull requires that you build that aircraft to take you in beyond the reach of the gravitational pull. If you come down out of the air to respond to those that are in gravity, you will escape the speed that is necessary to maintain your momentum. So you cannot afford to allow the sensitivity of what is being said on the ground to make you abort the mission in the air. So your strength and your continuity and your longevity is only predicated upon your ability to disregard the comments on the ground while you're in the air.
That is good right there. So, I'm still stuck up. I was thinking, because I had this question, but you kind of just answered it in the way you answer criticism. I mean, there's pastors, there's leaders, there's community leaders, there's entrepreneurs, there are movie producers, there are real estate moguls, and then there's you. You've done all of that. And the great thing that I think that people who are even new in their walk with the Lord is that you have been doing this 45 years. I mean, beautifully. 45 years. And if you go back and look at a bunch of old videos, I mean, you're going just as hard now as you were then. I mean, and the power is just as impactful now as it was then. What would you say is the secret sauce for that longevity?
I think to thine own self be true. You can teach what you know, but you can only reproduce what you are. I can teach Mandarin, but I cannot have a Chinese baby. So you can teach all you want to, and don't be over-impressed with people who teach things that they haven't produced, because it is easier to teach it than it is to do it. I have been focused on doing it before teaching it, which gives credibility to the teaching. Because honor always needs something to point to. People don't respect you because of what you said. They respect you because of what you do. And I did it all, and the funny thing about it is most people only see the preaching. And the preaching is the smallest part of my life. It takes the least amount of time. It's the least amount of focus. My days are not spent in Genesis to Revelations. My days are spent talking to lawyers, accountants, real estate developers, senators, business leaders, global thought leaders, building the infrastructure that you don't see. Greatness is generally underground. And people who seek the stage are picking the poverty of greatness.
Bishop.
Yeah. Whenever you see a stage, the people who are on the front row are always more powerful than the people who are on the stage because they hired them. So so you can aspire to be the employee or you can aspire to be the employer. The problem with us, we have always been satisfied to be on the stage. We've always been the entertainer. We've always been the performer. We've always done the tap dancing. We've always done the cooking. We've never owned the building.
Bishop.
So here's something you didn't ask me, but I'm going to throw it in for free. We are facing a crisis in this country of mammoth proportion on so many different levels that we cannot talk about leadership and not just quickly address it. The statistics suggest by 2030, 50% of African Americans will fall beneath the poverty line. And they will fall beneath the poverty line either because they have degrees in things that are now irrelevant, or they have positions that are going to be replaced by artificial intelligence. If we don't get out of our feelings and move out of our past hurts into our futuristic preparation, we will still be trying to correct the sit-ins on the bus while people are taking aircraft to the moon. Our conversations are all historic. They are not revolutionary. And we are in the midst of one of the greatest paradigm shifts, the greatest paradigm shift I have ever seen in my life. It is of such mammoth proportion that every teacher must become a student. In order to make this transition, we have never passed this way before. The level and speed to which artificial intelligence and technology has changed the game, which has been expedited by COVID, that we have now found ourselves in a situation that we would probably be in by 2040 or 2050. It is now 2030, which is only 8 years away. So if you don't pivot, you're going to die.
That's important.
If you don't pivot, you're going to be lost. The ability to be a pivotal thinker and to pivot on your feet is absolutely necessary to survive the voluminous of tempestuous change that we are seeing on a daily, if not hourly basis. Your business must be able to pivot on a dime or it will not survive. Your church must be able to pivot on a dime or it will not survive. And it is not enough to produce a product if you don't have a method of distribution. For example, music will always be music. Preaching will always be preaching. We have always done all of that very well. Entertainment, it will always be entertainment. Movies will always be movies. Sports will always be sports. But the way in which it is distributed will change drastically. Yeah. And it is changing while we're talking. Right now, there are men in little rooms thinking up new universes, the metaverse, places through which you can operate, real estate in the intangible realm of cyberspace. And they are selling and buying property that is not land masses while we are still trying to figure out home ownership. If we don't get in the room where it happens and listen at conversations like what we're having today, and those conversations must trickle down to your living room, they must trickle down to your dining room table, they must enter into the mouth of your children, they must direct the areas in which you are educating yourself in. We must no longer brag about having a doctorate degree, because you can have a doctorate degree in something that leaves you jobless.
Exactly.
So while we put all of these titles on our names, we seek titles while the world is seeking relevance.
Bishop.
And if you are relevant enough, you can command your own salary. Because some people are so good at what they do that they stand head and shoulders above mediocrity, and they can demand what they want. My friend Noel Jones says, before you make demands, be sure you're in demand. Yeah. And the only way you can be in demand is to be exceptional. And if you're going to be exceptional, you can't be petty. And if you're going to be petty, and what makes us petty is when we come down from the 40,000-foot opportunity to argue with an ant. And I think what the object
I'm just grinning. I'm just listening.
You listened at me. I think that when we have a leadership moment we must then embrace the fact that we're only here because we are in some way called to be a leader. But most of us are not leaders, we are babysitters.
Bishop.
We are running nurseries whereby you drop the kid off at the nursery, their job is to keep him intact till you come get him. Totally different from kindergarten, because kindergarten has a metrics of education to make the child better when you pick them up. Most of us run our businesses and our churches as if they were nurseries. That means success is just keeping it.
Bishop.
Okay, so you have to decide, is this going to be a nursery or is this going to be a kindergarten? Is it going to be a place where we have some metrics, some KPIs, key performance indicators, to measure the metrics of leadership? Leadership requires movement. If you're not a movement, you're a monument. Now, a monument will always be there, but it will never move. And we are in such a transient society today that the moment I get on my phone, I've gone global.
Yeah.
But it's a dangerous thing to go global with a community language.
Bishop. So good.
So you start speaking in the dialect of the community you came from in a global world, not respecting the demographics of what technology has laid at our feet. And here we are in a situation right now that there are people watching us from all over the world who could not get to Dallas, but they are experiencing what we are experiencing. And we have to have a vision that thinks globally. Your company should be thinking globally. I'll give you an easy example. It's predominantly African-American people in the room. Why are we allowing people from other ethnicities to make black hair care products?
Exactly.
So there you are, and it's not that we don't produce it, we can't get distribution. Okay, it's not that we don't have black hair care companies that produce black hair care products, but the reason you don't see them on the shelf is that we are blocked out of getting mass production. We have to meet with the CEOs and the corporate officers and come out of tongues and stop dancing and demand equal opportunities at distribution. And if we don't get equal opportunities at distribution, then we have to create our own distribution and move forward in what we have to do. Your leadership summit success is not determined by how many people came and how many people registered. It is determined by what you do with what you have been exposed to today. If you're not going to do anything with it, you should leave the room now. Because I, for one, do not have time to waste pouring something into somebody to entertain them with my experiences rather than to propel them into orbit. I want you to leave airborne.
That's good, Bishop. Airborne. Somebody's going to leave the room. They're going to try to shoot and go airborne. And on the way up, they get pulled back. They're going to go up and get pulled back. You may have just did that. You may have just come. You had an up moment, and now it's a setback. How do you talk to yourself? Do
I talk to myself?
when you have a setback about something you were so hopeful about?
First thing, I'm going to borrow Brother Wimprey's statement. Every setback is a setup. Okay, when you have a setback, you never ever came back to what you were before, because if you didn't gain anything else, you gained the experience from doing whatever you did, and nobody can ever take experience away from you. So whether it is a divorce, or whether it is you were fired, or whether you were pulled back on a job, or your movie didn't get greenlit, or whatever it was, you had the experience. You're that much closer to success, and you have been enriched by the experience more than the money. So you got to start looking at it right, because we don't have time to go into depression when we have experience.
Ooh, that's good, Bishop.
Okay, so that's how I look at my experiences. Every door I knock on, I've had many setbacks, many setbacks, and all of them have enriched me and prepared me and introduced me to new audiences. Even if the reason we have setbacks is because we didn't get what we imagined. But just because you didn't get what you imagined doesn't mean you didn't get anything at all.
Ooh, that's good, Bishop. So true. That's good.
You see, you see what I'm saying?
good,
I met some people I'd never met. I got in a circle I never got. I learned terms I'd never heard before. I am brighter. I am wiser. I am more articulate. I now know that it exists. That all is priceless in the university of humanity. Because every day we breathe, we are in a university. My mother was a school teacher, and she taught me that the world is a university. Everybody in it is a teacher. When you wake up in the morning, be sure you go to school. So every day, in every conversation, in every interaction, whether I succeed or fail, I am always learning. And because I learned something, I am better off. So it didn't become a deal, but it did become a book. So I took the deal that didn't go through and wrote about it and wrote a book and got paid hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars because I now have experience. And experience has a shelf life. Like a carton of milk, it has a shelf life. I will only be here so long. So the closer I get to my due date, the more discriminative I become about who I share my experiences with.
That's good, Bishop. That's good, Bishop. You know, let's talk about pressure. Because many of us, you're dealing with pressure, you got everybody looking at you. But you have a different kind of pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you got the church.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that, you know, at any moment it could be, I'm in a crisis, is Bishop available? I'm like, bro, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, nobody's available. But you deal with, you know, a lot of people's pressure. They put it on you. And many people in the room, you deal with other people's pressure. They put it on you. They come to you as mama, they come to you as the cousin, you're the listening ear in the family. So now their pressure becomes your pressure. How do you deal with handling other people's pressure on top of your pressure?
Yeah, there you go.
And
right
not
there.
let it pressure you?
Right there. Some of my pressure is self-inflicted. You can't have growth without pressure. So some of my mastery creates pressure because I am tenacious and relentless, and I never sit still. So I'm always creating new adventures, and whenever I create new adventures, they create new pressure. So let's talk about that pressure first. That kind of pressure, which is more important than the pressure that people put on you, because there will always be people who have problems. Jesus said, the poor you have with you always. So you can't regulate and control that as effectively as the pressure your drive puts on you, because you open up the door to new opportunities, and every yes has a PSI rating. So every time you say yes to anything, you have a pressure indicator that lets you know how much pressure you are rated for. You can say yes beyond your rating as long as you understand that more stress means you must build more structure.
That's good.
I can drive my car up on top of this stage, and the stage will hold it if I put enough structure up under it. If you are stressed above measure, it's because you lack the structure that is necessary to accommodate the opportunity. So either you're going to have to turn the yes to a no and walk away from the deal, or you're going to have to say yes, and while the deal is coming to fruition, you're going to have to hire enough infrastructure to do the fulfillment that is necessary to keep up with your dreams. I am trying to say that many of you do not have the infrastructure that is necessary for the level you dream on.
Bishop.
So you're dreaming up here, but your structure's down here. And so all you're doing is being stretched till you pop. And you have a mental breakdown or emotional breakdown because you are a control freak, and you don't want anybody else to have any control, and you're not willing to give up control, which ultimately stunts your growth and you fail. The only way you can grow is to give up some control. And you have to be strong enough to give up some level of control in order to increase and franchise your vision. And most people who are in big positions are really small people. And because anytime you put a small man in a big position, he's a control freak, and he won't let anybody else have any authority, because all roads lead back to him, and he stunts his own growth and ultimately goes bankrupt. That's the pressure you put on yourself. The pressure that other people put on you, you have to manage it. You have to be able to see the phone ring and not answer it. You have to be able to take a text and not respond to it. You have to be able to toss the ball into somebody else's court. So in my case, I have counselors on staff. I have other pastors on staff. I have other preachers on staff. I have other people on staff. We're in development right now in Canada. A movie is being shot that is our movie while I'm sitting here with you. I can't be in all places at the same time. I have an agreement with Lifetime to do an anthology of films that we are in the process of producing, a continuous story of 7 deadly sins, of which we shot 2 and have aired and hit the tops of the charts of first release movies with Lifetime. I've got 5 more to do. They're being shot right now. I cannot be in all places. So every place there is a responsibility, you have to delegate that leadership to someone else and hold them accountable. That relieves pressure, and their reports back to you relieve pressure. Now, in the midst of all of that pressure, plus my children and my grandchildren, comes the added pressure of my friends, my pastors, my neighbors, my staff, and the things that are happening in their lives, death and destruction, disease, and COVID, and all of that is coming in. I can't handle that if I'm going to get emotional. Just because you're emotional, I cannot get emotional. Or I'm crying at your mother's funeral, and I can't help you, and you have the right to cry. I cannot release the full impact of my humanity because you're in a crisis. I can give you my wisdom, but if I give my heart to everybody who's bleeding, then I will have no pulse.
That's good, Bishop.
So to be able to manage someone else's crisis without getting in the crisis. See, we get in the crisis. The therapist never gets in the crisis. They speak to the crisis. And here's the real artistry of it all, is after the incident is over, to shake it off. Because if you don't shake it off, it will lay down with you and keep you up at night, and you'll be nauseated. And it's not that you're indifferent. I'm very empathetic, but I cannot go to bed with all of those people's lives and go to sleep. And I have learned over the years that I have to detox. This is how you detox. There are a lot of different ways to detox, depends on your personality. Find out something that becomes sorbet to you. Sorbet is always served in fine restaurants when meals are served in courses to clean the palate. Most of you are going from one course to the next course without any sorbet to clean your palate.
Bishop.
The reason they serve sorbet is to clean the palate so that you can have the full appreciation of the taste of the next course. You're not getting the full appreciation of what's next because what was is coming up and polluting your taste buds from feeling the effects of what is. Find out what cleans your palate. Is it golf? Is it running? Is it comedy? Something that's totally antithetical to what you do, that kind of cleans your palate so that you are still as bright as you need to be when you walk up on the stage and your today is not contaminated with your yesterday. That may be a person. That may be a conversation. That literally may be comedy. I am a great advocate for comedy. Laughter is medicine. And I love comedians that make me laugh my head off because they clean my palate. And when they clean my palate, then I don't lay down with all of that stuff on top of me. Is that helpful?
That's good, Bishop.
Okay.
That's good. There's no need to lay down with somebody else's problems.
You can't, there's too many of you all. I pastor 30,000 people. I've got 25 million people following me on social media. I cannot take all of that on. I have 300 people on staff. I have 5 children. If nobody but my immediate family comes to my house, it's 21 people. And all of those people have a story and a personality and an attitude because there are people. So how do you navigate through all of that? You steer through all of it, but you lay with none of it.
That's good, Bishop.
Because if you lay in it and bathe in it and soak in it, it will cause you to crash your plane. And guess what? If you're a leader, if you go down, everybody goes down with you. And this is why you must do self-care. Because if you go down, the whole thing topples with you. So you want to speak to the problem, but not get in the problem. The problem with most of us is when people bring pressure to us, we are opinionated. So we have an opinion about the problem, and then we make an investment and choose a side in the problem. And then now all of a sudden you are in the problem rather than speaking to it. You can only help people if you stay removed from getting in it. The pull is to get in and take a side, because they really don't come to you for advice. They came to you for you to affirm their perspective. Yeah. They want you on their side. And so if you're not wise, you will take a side and get mad at somebody that you don't really have any experience with, and which means you should not be doing this at all. You should not be doing this at all. And there are some people who should not be doing that at all. Final point. Most people come to you with the worst crisis because they are the least busy. Yeah. They have crisis more frequently because they are more available for crisis.
Bishop.
See, powerful people have less crisis because they are so busy that they don't have time to get down into the minutia of every little thing that's going on. And so if you stay airborne and you interact with people who are powerful and busy, they will occasionally need you. And when they need you, it's really bad. When they have a problem, it's a really big problem. But they don't have them often, because if you are powerful, you live in the world of solving problems. So conflict resolution is critical to notoriety. If you can't resolve conflict, you can't fly. Resolve it. My response to a crisis is a decision, not a side, not a feeling. And don't bring me anything that you don't want me to make a decision about, because if you bring it to me, the way I resolve the conflict is to make a decision. Because really, most problems are simple. Either we are going to do this
Or that.
or we're going to do that. Which one are we going to do? And once we make that decision, then all of my actions will line up with that decision, and I will move forward. I will not spend a lot of time arguing over who's right and who's wrong, trying to score points in a game that I never signed up for. Don't allow people to make you sign up for a game that you don't play. And so leaders make decisions. Followers make complaints. By the time it gets to my office, a decision is going to be made. There's no other office to go to but God. So in my organization, I'm at the top tier of every one of my organizations, because I'm either the pastor of the organization or the CEO or both. And I have 5 different organizations to run. When it comes to me, I can't get mad. I have to make a decision. I can't spend time being hurt. I have to make a decision because the survival of the entity is the most important issue. And what is going to be best for us to survive and succeed and get back to doing what we are called or created to do, which is not to be chasing problems around and listen at you bellyache about something you're not willing to change. If you're fat and you want to lose weight, exercise. If you're married and you don't want to be married and I offer you advice and you won't take it, then the only other thing for you to do, I don't do that. Go to somebody else's office. I don't do divorces. So you're in the wrong office. Let me give you somebody. Okay? If you're either you're going to take the chemo or you're not. Everything comes down to a decision. Don't spend months and months and months and emotional capital in things that ultimately are going to bring you back to where you could have got to earlier. A decision. Take your time and make a good decision because you're going to have to live with that decision. But make a decision because there's nothing worse than an indecisive leader. It's like following somebody. Have you ever been driving behind somebody who couldn't make up their mind whether they were going forward or they were going to turn right, and you're just ready, you're screaming at them in your car because they're indecisive? That's what it's like to have a leader who can't make up his mind. Make up your mind if it's wrong.
That's good.
Make up your mind if you have to correct it. Make up your mind if you have to apologize. But for God's sake, make up your mind because you don't get to be a leader and remain indecisive. Now, in the process of making a decision, in the multitude of counsels, there is safety. So before I make any decision, I talk to people who have passed this way before or done what I'm trying to do because their wisdom is transferable. You don't always have to earn it. You can learn to listen to people, which takes us back to where you started. If you don't have relationships with people, you can't pick up the phone. If you see everybody as a competitor just because they do what you do, you don't understand that nature exists off of cross-pollination.
That's good.
You cannot be fruitful if there's nothing to pollinate with. You have to have people in your life that are not on your payroll, who are your equal or higher, who are not intimidated by your success, through which you can get their advice and perspective before you make the decision. And it lessens the likelihood of you having to retract it. I hope that's helpful.
Bishop. Go ahead, give him a hand. That was incredible. And our final few moments as this global world thought leader. There are many now, with the advent of social media, who love to just stick a name on a post, and now they're the great pastor, they're a thought leader, and it's like 6 people following them, and now they're, in the church world, now you're an apostle, and now you are all of these titles, but it's no experience, there's no depth to it. But on the other hand, there are some really, really great thought leaders rising up. With this next generation, what excites you, but what also terrifies you about this group of thought leaders, pastors, preachers, and even in the business world? What excites you about this group of next, and what terrifies you?
Oh, that's such a good question. And you should ask me that first. You should ask me that first. I used to be really, really worried because I didn't see much coming, but I do see a lot of young people coming up that really have the goods and have the tenacity and have the talent and have the it factor. The it factor cannot be bought. It cannot be bought. It cannot be bought. You cannot lay hands and transfer it to people. I can give you my building, but I can't give you my it. The it factor is the thing that causes people to gravitate to you, to respond to you. It's a thing. It's a nebulous, indescript thing. But I do see some young people who have the it factor, both in corporate and in faith. Most of the time that I'm doing business in Hollywood, the CEO is young enough to be my son, sometimes my grandson, because people are running into power in corporate America at early ages, and they're not in the purview of the church. The church doesn't even see it because it is so introspective that it can't get out of its own way. But outside of the walls of the church, young people are doing amazing things. Inside the walls of the church, there's a new generation of leaders that are coming up that are doing amazing things. Like every generation, they are polluted by false copies of great originals. But being polluted by their presence doesn't mean being diluted by you in your content. So you're going to live in the world with a lot of cheap copies, but that doesn't stop you from being an original. And there are a lot of originals that are doing great things and innovative things. And what is great to me is whatever is authentic to you. I don't want to be the best. I want to be, because if I seek to be better than you, then I have lowered myself to being measured by you. So if my goal is to be the best, then you're the standard that I aspire to. What I want to be is absolutely authentic to who I am. And therefore, if you are authentic, you are irreplaceable. Because there will never be another you. There will never be another you. Quick, I know we're running out of time. We have lost Sidney Poitier, we've lost Aretha Franklin, we've lost countless people that were legendary. But what made them legendary is that they were always authentic. There'll never be another Aretha. There'll never be another Sidney Poitier. There'll never be another Rosa Parks. There'll never be another Dr. King. There will never be another, any of these people that I'm naming. They didn't get there because they were smart or just because they could sing. They got there because they were authentic. The better you know you, the further along you're going to be in choosing who can work with you, who can be married to you, who can get along with you, where you're trying to go, what you can stand, how much pressure you can take, and how the world can see you. This, like never before, is a time for you to be authentically you. I did what I am. I am a producer, so I produced. I'm a writer, so I write. I'm a speaker, so I speak. I can only produce what I am. So that means self-examination becomes critical. And many times we're so awed by other people that we never really date ourselves. Take yourself out on a date. And ask yourself, what do you want to be when you grow up? And how did you grow up when you were little? And what is your favorite color? And learn who you are. Date you, love you, bathe you, speak to your body while you wash it. Speak health into your limbs and energy into your joints, and lay hands on your head and bless yourself so that you won't have to go get somebody to love you.
That's good.
So if I marry you, it's because I want you. It's not just that I need you. And I'm not looking for you to make me feel complete because I was whole when you got me. And if you leave me, I'll be whole again. So you understand what I'm saying? So if you don't like being around you, don't expect me to like being around you. So date yourself. Find out who you are to help you to pick what fits you. And don't lie to yourself. Don't quote scriptures to yourself. I'm not talking about ideals, I'm talking about reality. Scriptures are our ideals. Who we are our realities. There's often a gulf between your realities and your ideals. You have to be honest about both of them. This is my ideal. This is my truth. Jesus didn't say you shall know what's right and it will make you free. He said you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. You can never be free until you're honest with yourself.
Wow. It's been, I don't even know what to say.
I know him so well.
Yeah, I mean, we've been having, we'll take plane rides, and it could be 3-4 hours of this,
Yeah.
and just talking. And I mean, this is, if there's a tip of iceberg, we ain't even hit the bare tip of what we talk about. I want to encourage you, if you don't have a safe place, find one, or be somebody else's. Be something that you wish you had.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, because
That's good.
you could be looking for somebody to pour into, that you feel like you can have a safe haven. And at the same time, somebody's looking for that. And while you can't find it, be that to somebody else and watch God give it to you in return.
Can I make a shameless plug?
Absolutely.
If the level in which I approach these questions seems intriguing to you, I want to invite you to our leadership conference in Charlotte, March 29th through April the 1st. I want you to invest in yourself. It won't be just me, and it won't be just preachers. It'll be the people that I do business with. It'll be the people who I believe are world shakers. It'll be the people you need to know. And it'll be the people that you could not get in the room with by yourself. And April 29th, March 29th, it's, March 31st through April 2nd, Charlotte, North Carolina. Go to This Is ILS and register quickly, because I'm going to cut it off at a certain point. I don't want to get more people than I can safely have in a room. I just got confirmation from the president of Ghana is going to be one of the people that I'm interviewing. One lady that I'm interviewing started a business with $900. She is now worth $2 billion over the last 35 years. She had, let me tell it right, she got borrowed $900 from her mama. She had $600. She started with $1,500. She's worth $2 billion right now. She sat on the presidential council for President Obama. She's been heralded in Forbes as one of the most watchable, influential black women in the world. It's people like that that are going to be in the room. They're going to be talking about everything that matters to the future. And I want to invite you to come. You don't have to be a pastor. You don't have to be a preacher. You could be an entrepreneur. You could be a leader. You could be somebody who just is hungry to be in a room with smart people. Yeah. If you fit any of those categories, I don't care what your race, your ethnicity, your background, This Is ILS and register right now. It's amazing. Thank you for letting me do that.
Yes, sir. No, do it again if you want to. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I value you. I appreciate you. I love you. I can't even express fully the admiration I have for you. If you sit up under a great man, a woman, or God, or anybody, you have a great example in front of you. The greatest compliment you can ever give that person, not words, not flowers. It's not money. It is simply going out and doing what you have seen. And this is by example of me listening.
You did well.
Thank you, sir. Let's give it up for Bishop T.D.